Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this free call. My name is Anuska Taylor. I'm so pleased you could join me tonight, whether you're listening live or in the replay. So I'm going to be discussing tonight the influencing power of your tone of voice and why our voice speaks volumes about us, and some practical ways you can become more conscious of your tone of voice to make it more engaging. And you will need a pen or a pencil handy towards the end, because I have a little exercise that you can try. So this call is for you if your voice is an integral part of your business and critical to your success. So you might frequently talk in meetings, or you could be on the phone to clients. You might regularly present to clients or to colleagues. You might produce podcasts or videos, or even have a coaching business. And really, your voice is your brand. You feel like you're not maximizing the full potential of your voice. So perhaps you've listened back to a recording and think you could do more, but just don't know where to begin. You might have tried to teach yourself some vocal techniques through YouTube or other means, or some books with little success. And maybe other people have commented about your voice and you feel like you're not engaging with people as much as you could, like that you feel that there's more. And you may even feel when you speak that you lose people. People switch off when you talk. So just a little bit about me for those that don't know me. My name is Anuska Taylor. I'm a certified vocal instructor, performer and singer. And I was born and raised in the UK and currently call Melbourne home. I've been teaching for over a decade, and I work with singers and speakers to help them find the full potential of their voice. So in terms of speakers, I work with people privately. So, one-on-one, that could be anyone really that feels they need help with their voice. And I also go into companies and work with individuals there on their voice. So I've been performing and studying voice for over 20 years, both in London and Melbourne. And voice is just really my life's passion. It's just what I love talking about and doing and singing and everything related. So I'm thrilled to be able to help as many people as possible with their voice, because it's just not something that we're taught unless we go and seek out the information. So it's estimated that about 33% of the world's workforce rely on their voice, and that could be either directly or indirectly for their work. But most people pay little attention to their voice unless they're forced to, and really just assume it is what it is, and it's always going to be the same. And most people think there's not a lot they can do about it. And I feel like we're missing out on utilizing our biggest and most unique communication tool to its fullest. Our voice is as unique as we are, and it is a window into our personal world. It's truly fascinating. On the phone, we instantly know who we're talking to by hearing their voice. So even if we can't see someone, we can tell when someone is nervous, we can tell when someone is sad or happy or angry or excited or even disgusted. And so how many of you have experienced, for example, a wobble in your voice when you're nervous, or even when you're very emotional? And often you'll feel your throat will tighten and your heart will race. So we get a lot of physical symptoms as well. So as well with the voice, we can perceive age and gender, and we can hear the difference between a child's voice and an elderly person's voice, for example. So we can usually hear a male or female voice easily, except perhaps in very young children and older people, where the voice tends to sound quite similar between male and female. So this is because as we age, female voices, the pitch drops in female voices, and in male voices, the pitch rises. So it ends up kind of balancing itself out. So that's why you'll often find it hard to tell male and female in very young children and elderly people, because they basically have got very similar voice ranges. So our voice is also a window into where we're from, and so meaning sort of regional dialects and accents. And also it can be our education and our upbringing. And I'm just going to talk for the UK, for example, because that's where I'm from and that's the country I know better. But in the UK, for example, we have very, very, very distinct dialects and accents in the UK, and you can tell very quickly where roughly in the country someone is from. And for example, some accents in the UK would be perceived to be more quote-unquote posh. So, for example, what we call received pronunciation, or the sort of Queen's English, you would make probably some assumptions about someone if they spoke with that type of voice, that you would assume probably they're quite affluent or well-educated. So these are the types of things that we're thinking of when we hear people's voices. That's just one example. So also psychological factors have an imprint on our voice too. So things like abuse or fear, grief, low self-esteem, they all show up in our voice, and often as weaknesses or instabilities in our voice. So you can see our voice literally speaks volumes about us, but most of us are oblivious to this. And the judgments that we make about each other's voices are often very unconscious, and we don't know we're doing it. I mean, many of you might even think I don't make judgments about people's voices, but it's so unconscious and so automatic. So we have our own perceptions of what we like and what we don't like in a voice, and it's very powerful in influencing us. We then make decisions about whether we want to work with someone or engage with someone or listen to someone's podcast or radio show. And in a sense, I think it's no different to listening to music and why you listen to certain singers and not others. Some voices you just like and you connect with. So often we can't put into words why we like or dislike a voice. I think people find it really hard to describe. But I think the things that I've covered already just show you how complex our voice is, and all the sort of hidden layers and messages our voice carries. And it's all very much based on our own perception, not any reality. So we know, for example, how using the example of education earlier when I was talking about the received pronunciation. So how educated someone is, we know logically has nothing to do with someone's voice. I mean, it might do, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But nonetheless, it could drive our decision-making, particularly if that person's education is an important part of why we would choose to work with them or want to engage them. So, for example, a doctor or a lawyer, we would want that person to have a certain level of education. So I know for me, for example, if I don't like someone's voice, I can't listen to them speak for very long. Whether it's a podcast or a radio show, I tend to switch off. And I tend to switch off both mentally, and I literally turn the radio off or turn the internet off. And it could be, the person actually has a lot of interesting things to say. They could be very knowledgeable, but their tone of voice is just really off-putting, and so people switch off. So your voice is very powerful, and don't underestimate the impact it has on others, because it's quite profound. And this could have huge implications in your work if you rely on your voice to reach new customers or clients. So tonight I just wanted to talk about a couple of common areas in the work I do with speakers to give you some tips on how to deal with these things, and just to start to make some things a little bit more conscious and just to make you a little bit more aware. So I just want to preface this by saying this isn't about changing your accent or your dialect, but becoming more aware of your voice and learning to find the most clear and engaging version of your voice. So I want it to still sound like you. I think that's really important. We don't want everyone to sound the same. And if you're not sure about any of this, I would recommend that you try recording yourself speak and then read something back and see what you hear. So the first thing is really, really prevalent, and many of you will probably know people that mumble, but mumbling is a big topic. And this is very, very common and very unconscious in serial mumblers. they don't realize they're doing it a lot of the time unless someone tells them. And we've all been on the receiving end of someone that mumbles, and it's really frustrating. And often we just give up and switch off. It depends on, I guess, our relationship with that person. If we have to deal with them, then of course we would. But, if we're just listening to someone talk, we'd probably switch off. Or we just might avoid talking to that person in the future and email them instead, or talk to someone else. But also, mumbling is, it's also kind of very boring to listen to. And it sounds like they're bored with what they're saying. If I talk like this and I talk like down here all the time, it just sounds like I'm not really very interested in what I have to say. And it is very disengaging to listen to someone who mumbles. But I also think that it's literally and sort of figuratively like you have a sort of wall up to the person that you're talking to, because you're not actually allowing yourself to be fully heard and to fully express yourself. It's literally a block because the mouth is obstructed or occluded, and so you're not really opening your mouth to let your sound out and to be fully heard. So it can be perceived as someone is lacking confidence in themselves, or what they're offering, that they don't really believe in what they're offering, or that they even have something to hide. Now, if you think this might be you, and you can try and, as I say, record yourself if you're not quite sure whether you mumble or not, or you can ask someone that you know will be very honest with you. You can try the following exercise to start to use what we call the articulators to their full potential. Now, articulators are the lips, the tongue, the jaw, and often people that mumble just kind of lump the articulators together, so they kind of use them as one unit. And they may never have seen them as three separate components before. So what I'd like you to do, and you can do this right now, you don't need any, you can be driving or whatever that you're doing, and I'd just like you to say the following sentence: I love the sunshine. And now this is where the pen or pencil that I spoke of at the beginning will come in very handy, because basically it doesn't have to be a pen or pencil. You just want to find something that's kind of long and thin but solid. So it could be like a chopstick or a knitting needle or something like that, but try not to choke. But something long and thin that you can put into your mouth easily between your back teeth. And so you want to kind of bite down on the pen or pencil or whatever it is you've got without kind of clenching your jaw, and just kind of hold it in place. And then I want you to say that sentence again: I love the sunshine. And I want you to notice how you have to move your lips and your tongue more when your jaw isn't moving. And then you can try moving the pen or pencil or whatever the object is you've got to the other side of your mouth and say the same sentence again, and then to the front of your mouth and repeat the same sentence. And then take the pen or pencil or whatever it is out of your mouth and say the same sentence. And you should feel like you suddenly have so much more space in your mouth, and your voice suddenly just becomes so much clearer, and all you've done is you've just articulated more and you've just created more space. And then if you feel like you've got that, then go and work on something of your own, or maybe read something like a longer paragraph or even a whole side of A4, and just see if you can maintain that space that you've created when you speak. It really is truly incredible how much more space you feel like you have, and how much easier the sound kind of travels around your vocal tract. So that's a little tip, and it's quite a powerful, simple technique. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention as well, and I think many of us are guilty of this, and I include myself in this too, is upspeak. Now, I talked in my previous webinar about modulation and intonation of the voice, which is the voice kind of moving up and down. But upspeak is where the pitch goes up at the end of a sentence, and this is incredibly common and very unconscious in many people. And so becoming aware of this is the first step. Now, the main issue with upspeak is obviously everything sounds like a question. And so it's almost like if you're talking to an audience or speaking to a group of people in a meeting, it's almost like you're seeking validation or approval for what you're saying, and you're just not confident or sure of yourself. Now, of course, it does have its place, because sometimes you might want to ask a rhetorical question, or you might just want to get people involved, and you might, raise your pitch at the end of a sentence. But generally speaking, I find that this is overly used and actually kind of works against people. So I think it's about choosing when you're using it rather than just mindlessly using it. So I'd like you to take the same sentence, I love the sunshine, and I want you to deliberately upspeak. So, I love the sunshine. So raise your pitch on the word sunshine. And it sounds ridiculous when you say it like that, but you'd be amazed how many people speak like this frequently. And then I want you to, with the same sentence, I want you to go down on the word sunshine. I love the sunshine. And sort of notice how you feel as you say these different ways of approaching this sentence. And then I want you to deliberately go up on the penultimate word of that sentence, so on the word the. So I love the sunshine. And to me, that one makes the most logical sense in that sentence, to go up on the penultimate word. But again, it's about becoming really conscious of how you're speaking, so you can actually give emphasis to the words you really want to give emphasis to, rather than just making everything into a question. So these are just a couple of things that you can start to pay attention to. It is about becoming aware and about being conscious of the way you speak. As I say, most people really don't think about it at all unless they're forced to, for whatever reason. So if you feel like you might need some personal help with this, I have designed a voice transformation program for professional voice users who are serious about building an influential and powerful voice. And so this is private coaching over a 6 or 12-week period, which can be taken in person or online. So obviously I'm in Melbourne most of the time and in London part of the time, so depending on where you are in the world, but you can always do things online as well. And we'll address your specific concerns, and really this program is tailored to your needs and your goals. So I would work very, very specifically on the kinds of material that you need to be reading and presenting, or whatever it is that you need to be doing. It's so hard to hear things in your own voice. And also, as we've discussed tonight, much of how we speak is so unconscious, you don't even know what you're doing a lot of the time. And that's the case for all of us. So if you'd like to find out more and have a chat with me, you can schedule a free 20-minute voice consultation to see how I can help you. And if this is the right program for you, it isn't going to be right for everyone. And so that's why I like to chat to people to make sure that you know what it sort of involves, and the expectations, etc., and how the process kind of works. And you can head to my website, so anuskataylor.com, and if you click on the Speaking Voice tab, you can actually schedule your session there. So it truly is transformational work, and if your voice is something that is really critical to your work, I would highly recommend you just have a chat with me at least to see how I can help you. Now, I've got a couple of questions here. Someone has asked, do online sessions work for voice training? So, yes, yes they do. I actually have my own voice lessons on Skype because my teachers are in America and Canada, and they are very effective. However, you do need a fast internet connection, and you do need a camera, and I need to be able to see you when I'm teaching you. So if you've got a camera and a fast internet connection, it's fantastic. It's very, very effective. It's also way more efficient use of your time to just be at your computer. You don't even have to go anywhere. And I record all the lessons, so you get recordings as well to listen back to. But of course, if you are in Melbourne, you can do them in person, or in London, you can do them in person. And yeah, I mean, it's always nicer to do things in person, I think. I always enjoy it when I do get to have my voice lessons with when I see them in person. It's always nice to have lessons in person, but it's still very effective to do online, and it is a time saver. And because the sessions are consecutive, it does make it, I think, very doable for people, that they haven't got to keep driving somewhere every week. And actually, moving on to the next question, which is quite helpful. So do I have to do this over a 6 or 12-week period consecutively? Yes, ideally, unless you are really sick. But if there's a reason why you don't think you could do it over a 6 or 12-week consecutive period, have a chat with me and we can discuss more. But really, the reason I say that is because it's the most effective way of you developing your voice. And really, it's about building muscle memory. And so frequent but short sessions are far more effective than you seeing me once a month or once every 3 weeks for an hour. It's better to see me half an hour weekly. And then we just make sure you're on the right track and you're not falling back into old habits. And also, if there's anything you're struggling with, I can go over things, and you haven't got to wait as long to see me again. But it really is about building muscle memory, so it just takes time. And we are trying to change possibly speech habits you've had your entire life. So it's not going to happen overnight. So the more frequently I can see you, the better. But this course is really for people who are serious about making the time and financial investment in developing their voice, and this engaging and influential voice. And so, I would suggest, if this is something that you're serious about, that you just commit to it for that 6 or 12-week period, because you would need to be doing practice in between anyway. But, a lot of the things I get people to do, they can do in the car, because a lot of people I work with are very, very busy and they don't have hours of time. So I try and give people things that they can do in their sort of dead time during the day, like if they're driving to work or something. But, this program won't be for everyone. We are trying to change deeply entrenched patterns, and it does need that consistency of practice. But I promise you, it's so worth the effort. And, just the rewards are huge, because your voice you take everywhere with you, whatever you do in the world. So that's it. So thank you so much again to everyone tonight for listening. And also, if you were listening on the replay, thank you for listening to the replay. And I really encourage you to go to my website, anuskataylor.com, to the Speaking Voice tab, and click on the schedule session, and you can get your free 20-minute voice consultation with me to kickstart your voice journey. So I look forward to working with many of you in the future, and have a good evening. Thank you.